Imagine you and 7,000 teammates standing on a huge battlefield. Across from you is an army so big that it almost looks like a moving ocean of people. There are 100,000 soldiers on the other side. That means for every one soldier on your side there are 14 enemies waiting. No reinforcements. No backup plan. Most people would say this battle is already over. But here's the crazy part. The army with only 7,000 soldiers actually won. And by the end of this video, you'll understand how a much smaller army managed to defeat one of the largest forces ever assembled. The secret wasn't magic. It wasn't luck either. It was smart thinking, teamwork, and courage. Let's start at the beginning. In most battles, numbers matter a lot. If one army has way more soldiers, they usually have the advantage. Think of it like a soccer match. If one team has 11 players and the other team has 50 players, it would be almost impossible for the smaller team to win. That's why military experts often say an army should have 3 times more soldiers than the enemy if they want to win easily. But here the difference was much bigger. The larger army had 100,000 soldiers, while the smaller army had only 7,000. That's more than 14 times bigger. The big army had more weapons, more equipment, and they were very confident. In fact, they believed this battle would be quick and easy. Many of them probably thought the smaller army would run away before the battle even started. But the smaller army had something the big army did not expect. They had a leader who refused to give up. The commander of the smaller army understood the danger. He knew they were badly outnumbered. But instead of focusing on the problem, he focused on something else. The strengths of his soldiers. They were loyal. They trusted each other. And most importantly, they believed in their mission. A great leader knows that soldiers fight better when they believe in what they are doing. So instead of telling them how impossible the battle looked, he reminded them that courage and unity can overcome fear. And that belief made a huge difference. But belief alone doesn't win battles. Strategy does. One of the smartest things the smaller army did was choose where the battle would happen. If they had fought in a wide open field, the big army could spread out and attack from every direction. With 100,000 soldiers, they could easily surround the smaller force. That would have been disastrous. So the smaller army positioned themselves in a way that limited how many enemy soldiers could fight at once. Think of it like this. Imagine trying to push 100 people through a small doorway. Even if you have lots of people waiting outside, only a few can go through the door at a time. That's exactly what happened. The battlefield prevented the huge army from using all of its soldiers at once. Instead of fighting 100,000 enemies at the same time, the smaller army only had to face smaller groups. Suddenly, the massive number advantage became much less useful. But there was another problem the big army faced. Controlling such a large group of people is extremely difficult. Imagine trying to organize 100,000 players in a giant game where everyone is shouting, running, and fighting. Messages get lost. Orders arrive too late. Soldiers get confused. And confusion in battle can be very dangerous. Meanwhile, the smaller army of 7,000 soldiers was much easier to manage. They moved together like a team. Their leaders could communicate quickly. And every soldier knew exactly what they were supposed to do. Instead of acting like a giant crowd, they acted like a well-trained unit. That discipline made them stronger than their size suggested. Another important factor was confidence. The smaller army believed they could win. The larger army believed they could not lose. At first, the big army was relaxed and confident. They thought the battle would end quickly. But when the fight started, things didn't go the way they expected. The smaller army held their ground. They fought bravely. They stayed organized. As time passed, something surprising began to happen. The big army started feeling uncertain. If the enemy was supposed to be weak, why were they still fighting so hard? Slowly, confidence turned into doubt. Doubt turned into fear. And fear spreads very quickly in a huge group. Once soldiers begin to panic, their ability to fight effectively disappears. The smaller army also used clever tactics during the battle. They didn't just attack randomly. They watched how the big army moved. Whenever the enemy tried to surround them, they shifted their position. Whenever the enemy rushed forward, they defended carefully and waited for the right moment to strike. Instead of attacking the strongest parts of the enemy army, they focused on the weak points. It was like playing chess. The smaller army was thinking several moves ahead, while the bigger army was only reacting to what was happening in front of them. Eventually, the huge army began making serious mistakes. And every battle has a moment when everything changes. A moment when one side suddenly realizes the fight is no longer going the way they expected. In this battle, that moment finally arrived. The large army realized something shocking. They might actually lose. That realization broke their confidence. Their formations became messy. Soldiers stopped trusting their leaders. And once that kind of confusion begins, it spreads fast. Meanwhile, the smaller army noticed the change immediately. They saw the enemy losing confidence. And they pushed forward with everything they had. Their courage grew stronger with every step. What began as a desperate fight to survive turned into a powerful attack. And momentum in battle is like a rolling snowball. Once it starts moving downhill, it becomes bigger and harder to stop. Soon the massive army began retreating. When the battle ended, people across the world were shocked. How could 7,000 soldiers defeat 100,000? Historians and military experts have discussed this battle for many years. But when you break it down, the reasons become clear. The smaller army had better leadership. They used smarter strategy. They chose the battlefield carefully. They stayed disciplined. And most importantly, they believed in each other. The larger army relied mostly on numbers. But numbers alone are not enough. This incredible victory teaches us an important lesson that applies far beyond the battlefield. In life, many people think that bigger always means stronger. But that isn't always true. Sometimes the team that wins is the one that is more focused, more organized, and more determined. A small group that works together can achieve things that seem impossible. So the real lesson from the battle of 7,000 vs 100,000 is simple. When people have strong leadership, smart strategy, and belief in each other, even the biggest challenges can be overcome. If you enjoyed learning about this unbelievable moment in history, make sure to like the video and subscribe. And if you love incredible stories like this, check out the next video where we explore another battle that changed history forever.